Love music. Live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David MacKinnon on RockSport Radio.
Good evening. It's the penultimate one of the week. David MacKinnon back in the studio with me. This is Talking Football across Central Scotland on DAB Digital Radio. Online at rocksportradio.co.uk and via your smartphone. That's using the TuneIn app. If you want to watch the programme, you can do. We're streaming live video on Periscope, on Twitter and on Facebook. Wee bit different tonight. We've had a couple of bits and pieces where we've had to change things around. So you won't see the normal graphics that you normally do, but you can watch the programme normally, as you do Monday to Friday, every night between 6 and 8. Now, tonight, if you want to take part in the programme, 0333 9000 442, that's the telephone number. You can text us on 60777, and you can also tweet us, as you normally do, at RockSport DAB. And we're pretty much now getting back into the full season again, David, because we've got the first of those qualifiers for the Europa League. We've had the Champions League with Celtic the other night, Hibs and Rangers in action tonight. So,
I was just thinking the exact
where
same.
did it go?
I was just thinking the exact same, Bill. You know, here we are, the 12th of July, and there's European football on tonight. This is the second week of it, so the World Cup still not finished. The world's gone pear-shaped, isn't it, I think? But do you know something? One of the things that came really to my attention was the fact is that, obviously Rangers playing Schuppe, if that's the right pronunciation. Schuppe. And basically Hibs playing Runevig. Now, if you actually start to look at the other teams that are playing tonight, then it gives you some kind of comprehension of where we are in Scottish football as far as the pecking order in Europe is concerned. Because if you look at some of the teams that are around there, it's incredible. Clubs that there's some clubs there you've never heard of. When I actually looked at it, the team that Rangers playing Schuppe tonight, they finished 40 points behind. Basically in fourth place behind the team that won the league. So there's
40 points behind.
40 points behind. So,
okay.
But they think they're on course to maybe cause a shock tonight. But it just shows you, these are difficult games to overcome so early in the season. But the calibre of team that they're playing, it's a wee bit embarrassing for me about European football because I think that Scotland. Obviously they're standing in Europe, and their efficiency is coefficient has allowed them to get to this stage. And the sooner it gets back to being there and playing maybe one qualifier and getting in, the better. But I suppose it's almost like a pre-season for teams like Rangers and Hibs, really.
This comes back to the whole thing we were talking about the other night, of course, as to whether Celtic, as the champions of Scotland, should be playing 4 qualifying rounds in the Champions League. Everybody says they shouldn't be, but they are because of the coefficient and because of where we're now sitting in world football.
Yeah.
Is it going to get any better? Can you see a way of it getting better? Because it seems to me, even in the developing countries now, a lot of them are mineral or oil rich, and they're starting to plough money in. I mean, we're talking about Azerbaijan last season and teams from there signing Brazilian players and taking them over there for big money. It looks like we're just not going to be able to compete.
Well, I don't know about the competing stage of it, but it's obviously, I think that if you look at the standings now, you've got a World Cup that is just about completed that Scotland didn't qualify for, and what happens is when you play these games in the World Cup, your points tally go up. So therefore I would imagine that Scotland would slip further down the table, and I'm just trying to see if there's an updated one here, because that's what happens. And I can't see Scotland at all. Yeah, 42nd. We're down 8. So before the World Cup, we were higher, and now we dropped 8th to 42nd.
And give me the shock value of some of the teams that are above us, David.
Well, Montenegro are just one below us.
Mali are supposed to be above us, I believe.
Congo, Iran, Australia, Ukraine, Serbia, Venezuela, Paraguay, Ireland, Republic of Ireland, Romania, Slovakia, Senegal, who obviously played in the World Cup, Austria, USA, Sweden. So it's those kind of clubs that habitually get to the World Cup finals that have maintained their ranking. Wales 18th, which is great for them. England 12th, but they're obviously moving up. And there'll be a revised one after the World Cup. But it just shows you that it's not a great situation. And as a consequence to that, my understanding of it is that then relates back to club football. And if you look at the last few seasons, St Johnstone have gone out in the first round, and various clubs have gone out. Rangers went out in the first round.
Yeah, against Progress, which it wasn't.
Yeah. It's lack of progress. But these kind of things, when you actually continually don't achieve, that's why you end up in the position they are. But hopefully, I feel confident for Rangers and Hibs tonight. I think they'll get through, and I think with the calibre of players they've got, I think as they start to get into it, I really see both of them getting to basically the qualifiers.
Okay,
beyond the qualifiers.
Well, we'll talk about them in a bit more depth, but let's come back to the domestic cups, and the first one starts this week. That's a Betfred Cup. One man who'll be girding his loins and that of his team will be Brown Ferguson, Stenhousemuir manager. Brown, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Pretty decent. Listen, where are you in pre-season? When did you start back, and are you happy with the progress you've made?
Yeah, well, we've started back maybe 3 weeks or so ago now, so it's a very quick turnaround from the last game of last season to starting again. It's been a positive pre-season up till now, but we obviously still need a few more players to strengthen up the squad. But obviously the League Cup starting this weekend, balancing getting the right players in, but by having a competitive squad is a challenge at this moment in time. But
how many short do you think you are, Brown?
If I'm looking going ahead into the league, we're definitely a minimum of 3 short at the moment. We're only really looking at this moment in time, we've got 15 players. We're looking for a minimum of 18, and obviously dependent on how these players come in and gel, then you might look to add another one or so. But certainly 15 at the moment, which does prove a problem for us when we're going into the League Cup competition when you can't play trialists. So hopefully we can get a little bit of business done between now and the weekend to make sure we've got a little bit more about the squad going into the League Cup games. But regardless of that, I'm really pleased with how the new players are fitted in and how they're all gelling together.
Brown, it's David MacKinnon here. I was really impressed with your season last season, and it must have given you a lot of pride of where the club ended up. How many players did you actually release at the end of the season, and how many did you lose? Did you lose quite a few through either release or going to other clubs?
We lost more than what we were hoping to lose. There's probably 3 players from the squad that we wanted to keep at the club that chose to move on, and then obviously as well as that we used the loan market last season quite successfully with the likes of Stenhousemuir, Harry Payton, Andy Dallas, who all returned to their parent clubs. So you've got 2 or 3 people that decided to move on for one reason or another. You lose a few players back to their parent club, and then obviously there's a change with certain players when you're looking to try and improve the squad. So all in all, we've probably lost slightly more players than what we were hoping to, but we've still retained a good core. I think it was 9 from last season. So with that respect, we've still got a good mix from last year.
Yeah, and this situation with trialists, with Dick Campbell on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was quite vociferous in this rule that doesn't allow you to play trialists. And I saw against Hamilton the other evening, it looked as if you had 7 trialists on the bench. So that doesn't really help the development for your players so it's either signing them or wait until you get another game that you can play them in. So that must be very frustrating for you.
It's massively frustrating, and probably it's the only real issue I've got with the competition. But it's a major one. The format of the competition, I think it's good, it's exciting, it's different. But when we're talking part-time group or a part-time squad, we can't accommodate too many players. Right. Why that's been through budget, but also just for the fact you don't want part-time players sort of sitting in stands at weekends. So you want to have everybody involved as best as you can, and every club is looking for an additional 2-3 players at this moment in time, whether it's a Premier League club or a lower division club. But you want to make sure you get the right tight team available for the start of the season, and we're looking to try and focus in on that. But there's still players out there waiting to try and get clubs. there's still players trying to make moves, and it's just too early to be able to go into competitive football with a really strong squad. And the biggest thing for me, though, is the actual players, because there's players trying their hardest to try and get clubs, get contracts, get positions, and we as managers will want to watch them as closely as we possibly can, and without being able to play any trialists, it's actually killing these players more so than the clubs, because they're not getting a chance to actually go and impress or do well against anybody.
Brown, sorry, carry on.
No, so I thought that the trialists, the inability to play trialists is just one that just does not work.
Listen, we had a long conversation with Ian McMenemy just at the end of the season about this very thing, and he was again fairly outspoken about it. I'm just wondering, the SPFL have made this decision. Has there been any representations as to find out why they've been so definite in saying you cannot play trialists, bearing in mind all the arguments you've just put forward, which are identical to your chairman's, and all make sense? And Dick Campbell, another experienced individual in the game, backs them up fully. Why are the SPFL taking this line with the Betfred Cup?
I'd be lying if I could give you an answer to that one. And in terms of obviously the discussions between the bodies and the clubs, it's the likes of Ian and other people that represent our club at these meetings, and I'm pretty sure, knowing the chairman, that he'll be putting over his concerns, and he'll be putting over in a very reasonable manner, which it's not just our club, it's other clubs. But so for whatever reason they're being ignored, I don't know. And as I said, it would be wrong for me to actually suggest why that is the case, because I've not been privy to those types of conversations. But ultimately, for clubs like ourselves, as I said, Finn, we've already got potentially 2 injuries for the weekend, so we could be going into the game on Saturday with 13 registered players, and that's 2 goalkeepers. Now, the bottom line is, it doesn't take long for us to actually not be able to field a team at all, which is just ludicrous and ridiculous at this stage of the season for any club. So, I don't think anybody wants to take the mickey with using loan players and trialists. But if we could even 2-3 players as a maximum during the group stages, it would make so much more sense. It would give players an opportunity to actually go and sell themselves and be in the shop window, and it would just take the pressure and the strain off trying to pull together a squad as early as this.
Have you still got, in the League Cup, is it just mirror the league? How many subs? Is it 7 subs and you have to pick 3 from them?
Yeah, it's almost identical in terms of that side of things, yeah. But yeah, as I said, obviously you go into the league competition and you can play trialists. That's the thing. Once you get into the start of the league competition, you can over a period of time. But we're all hopeful. I think every manager I've spoken to is hopeful that come the start of August, you've got your squad pulled together. But everybody I've spoken to, whether it be managers in the Premier League or at the part-time level, everybody's still looking to add to their squads. But we just can't run with big enough squads, and we don't have reserve squads to be able to fill the bench and make sure that come the Saturday we've got a really strong competitive team. So I'm really happy with the group we've got, but we need now a few extra bodies, and hopefully with a bit of luck we're going to be still strong enough to go and compete in the next 4 games.
How easy is it to get your squad in shape and ready for a game, when you're starting the season as early as we do now with the Betfred Cup, when you know that you've still got bits and pieces to add to it? Because I guess depending on the players you've targeted and how you can get them in, and if you get them in, that will make a difference to the way you set your team up as well. So it must cause you a number of different problems, really.
It causes a whole host of problems, but it's one of these ones. You've got an idea of how you want to go and shape up your team for the season ahead. You've got an idea of the type of player that you're wanting to bring in, and ultimately we're looking to try and improve as a group, naturally from where we were last season. So you're targeting players and you're speaking to players, and to be honest with you, a lot of these players that we're speaking to are the players that are in that full-time sort of situation where they're not being offered contracts and they're contemplating the part-time the route as opposed to staying full-time, and these are major choices for players to make as well. But they're obviously looking at it, and we're trying to make the strongest squad available, get the strongest squad available to ourselves. And ultimately you're looking at all these players, but trying to get the squad together and how you want to shape it up is a challenge, because we can't actually have that many players.
Can I just ask a guy I know very well when I was chief executive at Dundee, Colin McMenamin? He broke his arm last year. Is he still a signed player, and is he close to coming back if he is?
Colin's still a player coach at the club, and he's very much.
Oh, he's brilliant, isn't he? What a player!
He's a great guy, and in terms of being fit for the start of the season, that's a player that'll definitely be fit for the start of the season. If Colin could have played in the playoff game, he must have broken arm. I mean, he broke his arm with 10 minutes of the game to go, and he knew full well he'd broke his arm, and he just walked off the pitch and said to myself, I'm away to hospital. But that was genuinely, he just nodded to his girlfriend at the start to say, they need to take me up to the hospital. He knew himself, but he's just got that attitude and that commitment about himself to just play through anything, and he's got such a positive outlook on the game, and just a thirst for playing football, and he's 37, he's still very effective and just wants to play football. So yeah, he'll be here, and he'll be desperate to start the season.
Tell us about some of the players you've brought in. I mean, you've brought in Connor Duthie, of course. You've got Alan Cook. You've got Seb Ross on loan, who was Player of the Year for Aberdeen's under-20s. So, you've brought a few players in, obviously. Graham Smith, former Rangers goalkeeper from Brechin as well. So you have been fairly busy. Tell us about those players and why you think that they were the ones that you wanted to bring into the club and what they bring to you.
Obviously, we want to try and there's a strategy about how we're trying to go about things, and we know as a club at the moment that we have to be quite clever about how we target some players in respect to getting a mix of players that are stepping up from lower levels, players that are established at our level, and obviously exciting prospects at the under-20s level. And I've been grateful to Aberdeen that they were proactive in getting Seb out to us at an early stage. And it would be great if we were able to do that more often. But Graham Smith comes in a fantastic experience at this level and a very strong character. We've brought in Alan Reid from Albion Rovers, who has played 11 years at Albion Rovers, and again another player that knows the level very well. Morgan Neal from Stenhousemuir, very imposing, aggressive player, but good on the ball as well, and again just a very good type who's hungry to progress and do well. 23, 24, still has that ambition to move on up if it comes his way. You then look to Kyle Johnson, who's recruited from Ross County under-20s. A local lad, used to be part of the Forth Valley Academy, and just a thirst and a hunger again to progress, and realises that he's going to be up against probably more senior players in his position, but is hungry to learn off them and do well, and has the right attitude to develop as a player. You then go into the middle of the park. We've signed Kieran Gibbons, who Aberdeen Livingston, as a younger player, dropped out of the division to East Kilbride and has been an ever-present for East Kilbride, and somebody that, reports-wise, has been somebody that's any time we've had him watched, very impressive, and since he's come into the club, he's been outstanding in his attitude. And again, you've got another player there who's hungry to go and progress and do well and move forward. Cookie we know very, very well. Obviously, he was here on loan last season. Somebody that likes the club, is established at the club, and we know what we can offer. And Connor Duthie again is another player that's been rejected at a full-time level, but we've had him here before, and again just a type and a character that I really like, and an exciting prospect going forward, and somebody that hopefully again will get a chance to move on. And then the last one, Seb Ross, and obviously we were very successful like Harry, Andy and Ennis Murray last year, and probably more so Harry than the profile that he gained from him, and he's had a very successful move to Ross County and seems to be doing very well. So we've brought Seb Ross in the same reason to try and give him that platform to go and establish himself as a senior player, and hopefully return to Aberdeen in a position where he can go and have a real impact on their first team. So yeah, really pleased with the balance that we've got, and hopefully it goes well.
Brian, you mentioned 2 or 3 players there that are coming back for a second spell with you at Stenhousemuir. How important is that for you as a manager, that it brings some kind of stability as you start a new season, even though they're back on loan again, particularly? When you're only carrying players that are getting a 1-year contract anyway, there's always a rebuilding process at any club in the lower leagues. It must be a big help being able to bring back players that you've had before and getting them to come back to kind of give you that kind of that knowledge that you've got a bedrock within the team.
It's massive. It's first and foremost, I get to know the player. I know what he's like, and I know his attitude, and you know his strengths, your weaknesses, and ultimately as well, the player gets to know me and the coaching staff, and gets a real feel for the club. And I think the players that have come back have got an affinity for the club, and they've enjoyed it. So to sell Stenhousemuir at them has not been difficult. And They know how we operate. So getting them back in, you know the characters, you know how they're going to operate in the changing room and on the pitch, and that's a very positive thing for us. But the other thing there, it's most of the contracts are 1 year deals, but we have managed to build on that this year, and we've got a few people on longer term contracts so that we can hopefully have a bit more continuity as we progress forward. Because, as I said, everything at this club, we've had a difficult spell a couple of years ago, and everything that's going on at the club, both on and off the field, is going in the right direction. And as I said, hopefully with this new group of players moving back up the division again this year, and this group of players that we've got, hopefully we can continue to progress this season.
We've had your chairman on, Ian McMenemy, quite a few times. Great character, really impressed with him, and his knowledge of the game, and also the fact is that he's a guy that I think thinks deeply of it. He's
not backwards at coming forwards either.
But you as a manager, I think you're 3.5 years. I think you've been there, Brown, which is great. Your relationship with the chairman's obviously important. Do you sense that his involvement, he's wanting to drive the club to maybe a higher level than you've achieved, or do you think that League One is really where you think that you'll bottom it out? Maybe just establish yourself yet again in League One.
I think first and foremost with the chairman, Ian, he's fairly new in that role, but he's obviously been a member of the board for the whole time that I've been at the club. What I'd say about all the guys on the board is that they're all extremely hard-working guys who wanted to see the club progress and do well, and obviously Ian's now sort of steering that ship, and I've got a very strong and positive relationship with him. So all these things are great, but I think from the club's perspective, Jamie Swinney's now on board as a chief officer. He's a football man as well, and I think without putting targets on where the club wants to go, I think it's just quite simple that we just want to keep progressing. Yep. And there's so many areas of the club that we can progress. You've got the off-field stuff that's so important to the community, and so many people are involved in that. And then you've also got the football side of it, which I take care of. And ultimately, we just want to keep improving as a group and as a team, and having a better structure and about us. And if we can do that, then we'll see where it takes us. It's I think there's fine lines between all the levels, if I'm being honest, particularly the part-time. There's not an awful lot between the teams. We maybe can't compete with some of the other clubs when it comes to just resource, but with the work that's going on, and hopefully over a period of time we can do that, and with the right strategy, recruiting players and bringing players in, and hopefully it can propel us into higher levels. But when that would happen, if that happened, when that happened, we don't know. We just want to improve as a group and improve as a club.
And you've got Thistle on Saturday. They're obviously going to want to put out a few markers to people this season, having come down from the Premier League. What's your thinking on the game?
I think for that reason, I think it's a dangerous time to get them. It's also a good time to get them. It is their first game, and there's obviously been a transition there. They've stepped out of the Premier Division, and there's been a number of changes within their club. But at the same time, they're going to be hungry. They're going to want to do well. So I think we've got them at home in the first game. I'm pleased that we've managed to get them in the first game at home, but I'm still under no illusions at how challenging a game it's going to be. But yeah, it's a game to look forward to. It's the first game of any season. Everybody's always excited and looking forward to it. And I'm pretty sure knowing the Thistle fans will bring through a good following at the weekend. They should make up for an exciting game, but we just want to ensure that how we're trying to impose ourselves, we take that into the game on Saturday, and we can build on that as we go through the League Cup campaign. And obviously, more importantly, we're going to take that into the league once that's up and running.
Okay, Brown, thank you for that. Right. Good luck for Saturday and for the season. I dare say we'll speak to you at some point during the season. But thanks for being on Talking Football with us tonight.
No worries, thanks for the call.
Cheers. Brown Ferguson there, the Stenhousemuir manager, talking to us about trialists, about the Betfred Cup, about Partick Thistle, about the strains and the rigours in the lower leagues and trying to put squads together. We wish them well at Stenny for this coming season, and again on Saturday when they take on Partick Thistle at home, Ochilview. We'll be back. We'll talk more football right after this.
Love music, live sport. Talking Football with Bill Young and David MacKinnon on RockSport Radio.
Could you hazard a guess, just talking to Brown there about this business with trialists, could you hazard a guess as to why the SPFL have said no, trialists are not eligible to play in the Betfred Cup? Is it something that they may have come into an arrangement with the sponsor so it doesn't look as if they're downgrading, if you like, the League Cup, which the Betfred Cup is?
To be honest, Bill, I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, common sense should prevail, shouldn't it? And you should be able to, because it's almost like it's a decision that's made without, consultation. And I think Ian McMenemy, when he was speaking about it, said that it was almost a fait accompli. That's it. It's been signed off. But I just think that whoever is the representative for the lower league teams should have been shouting it from the rooftops and said, no, this is unacceptable, we really need to play trialists, because you've just heard from Brown they are saying that he might have 15 players available, may even be 13 players,
right,
2 goalkeepers.
It could even be 13.
So that doesn't give the Betfred Cup any sort of great credence, does it? When you're struggling to put players on the bench because you have not signed the appropriate players. But that's what clubs do. The smaller clubs down the bottom, there's a big churn in the players, and that's what I was asking how many left. Because what happens is that it's year to year contracts. Very rarely does anyone in the lower divisions get an extended contract because obviously financials.
Yeah.
And they try and sign them up. And as he said, there's a lot of players that are full time looking for clubs, coming out of the full time system. And they're not really getting a chance to actually get that, because what you've got is obviously they had the game against Hamilton. There was 7 trialists they had, and then they're obviously going into the League Cup, which is obviously going to dominate the next 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. Or not 2 or 3 weeks probably, but then you're into the league business in August, and they can only play trialists in the league business. So if you're a trialist and you're not picked up with a team, you're going to have 2 or 3 weeks where you're not playing, and really it's all about fitness. So it doesn't give the trialists and the guys that are out of contract a lot of opportunities to get clubs. So I think it's one that's maybe been decided without consultation, and they've just thought, right, let's just move it through. But it's nonsensical, isn't it? Absolutely nonsensical.
Yeah, it's Lewis. It looks as if that call for you is coming in now. Is he listening? I don't think he's listening. Hang on, wait a minute. Let me do this.
Well, just put the buzzer on. So any calls coming in?
Looks like he's trying to call you.
Oh, listen, by the way, this is great. This is like a Monty Python sketch for me.
Unbelievable. Can you hear me? Can you hear what I'm saying to you? He was trying to call you, I think.
He's listening to somebody else. He's
too busy talking to Andy Ultimate pole position.
He'll be listening to
He'll get a pole up his keister in a minute. Never mind pole position.
He'll be listening to our programme on our station.
Yeah, I know what he's doing. But anyway, no, it's just he was trying to phone Danny Rogers, and then I saw Danny Rogers phoning in here. So I don't know what's going on. They're obviously playing telephone tennis here. What was I going to say? Just looking at that situation, though, he mentioned a very, very interesting point, and it's something we've spoken about, obviously, over the last wee while, and that is the fact that more and more players are being released from clubs, and they're having to make the decision, Davey, about going from full-time to part-time. You've been there. It's not an easy decision to make for a player.
Well, it's not an easy decision, but I was relatively in a position where, because I'd played with, I was at Rangers and I was leaving Rangers, there was a lot of clubs interested in me. I obviously had my knee problem, which I had to knock back quite a few offers. But if you're in the game and you're starting out and you're maybe 20, 21 and you maybe not get the breaks to get in to a team, you really need an opportunity. And the big thing is, because of the contractual situations, your money stops the end of your contract, your money stops. So a lot of these guys will be relying on their mothers and fathers to see them through, the summer. And then a decision has to be made. Look, if I'm not picked up by a team by August, then you really have to consider your options. And everyone glamorises the thing that players get big money and all this kind of thing. And but there's a lot of people at the bottom end.
Listen, in Scotland particularly, it's isolated for people who get big money. It may be a bit better elsewhere, but certainly in Scotland, it's an isolated situation. Who are the big earners and who aren't? It's one of these mythical things, isn't it? You're a footballer, so you make fortunes. But
the other thing is that, which is relative to that, Bill, is the fact is that, having been at a few clubs, whilst a manager can look at, Y-Scout and can look at videos of players, they will not take a chance on getting a player in without seeing them in trial. I know that from...
Unless his name's Walter Rojas, of course.
Yeah, well, at Hamilton, Martin Canning in particular, when you were actually bringing on players, you're saying, this guy looks the part. No, I'm not signing them without having them in. And then what you had to do is go back to the agent, go back to the player and say, look, would you come in for a week's trial with us just to see how you fit in, and if whether you like us and we like you. But Martin was obviously scrutinising them to see whether they were the right type, number one, but also whether they could add value to the squad. So these are the kind of things that have to do. So part of the game in Scotland, even at Premiership teams like Hamilton, they want people to come in and play games as trialists. That's just the way it is, because a manager won't sign a player and pay him whatever he's going to pay him based on a video. They really need to get the player in. Well,
look at Ali Crawford. He was at Hearts on trial, and I think he's just away to Doncaster Rovers.
Yes, that's a great. I'm really pleased for him. He'll do very well down there. He got a 2-year contract. I was surprised Hearts didn't sign him, because they would give him something different in midfield. But that's a great opportunity for him, League One in England, isn't it?
Yeah.
Get down there, and I think he's the type of player that will light up that league. And I think that he may even be going to a championship club for a bit of money next season.
Okay, let's bring our next guest on, because he's just gone to St Mirren on loan. Danny Rogers is the new St Mirren keeper. Danny, how are you?
Not too bad, how are you?
Good. Listen, can I ask you a question without being cheeky? And I'll only ask it because you're at the end of the phone, but after 7 years at Aberdeen and going on loan and things, don't you think you should just have a chat with them and say, look guys, can I go somewhere else?
Well, we had that chat last season because I was out of contract, so we had that chat, and after a while, after a few weeks of me thinking about it, I thought it's probably from the public eye, it probably sounds daft, but I decided to stay because I feel like I can be the Aberdeen number one in the future, and a big thing for me was going out on loan. They agreed that I could go out on loan again, which was probably the deal breaker. That was exactly what I wanted. I just want to go and play games because I know Joe Lewis will play. So yeah, I'm happy enough to stay there for the moment to bide my time, and I'm sure I'll become the Aberdeen goalkeeper one day.
Well, you've had 2 seasons at Falkirk, you're at St Mirren now, and you're going to be working under Jamie Langfield, which is something, I dare say he's no stranger to you. What made St Mirren the attractive proposition in the end? Was it the fact that you were going to be working with Jamie, someone that you knew?
Well, yeah, Jamie Langfield was a big factor. When he rang me, I know him years, you know what I mean? So it was quite easy to chat to him, and he told me the ideas that the new manager had, and the real attraction was Premiership football. I'd been in the Championship for 2 years with Falkirk, one with Dumbarton, so I had a lot of offers from the Championship, but I just thought to myself, I've done that, I need to test myself in the Premiership. So when St Mirren came calling, I thought it made sense.
Danny, Dave MacKinnon here. I saw you extensively at Falkirk, and I'm not just saying this because you're the other end of the phone, but I was hugely impressed with you, your performances there. Did you think at that stage that you would go back to Aberdeen because of your performances there and being so good? And, do you think you'd a chance then to go back as number one?
Well, thank you. But yeah, I thought I'd done really well at Falkirk. I was really happy with how it went, and I knew going back to Aberdeen that I'd be in with a lot more of a shout than I had in the previous year. But then again, you have to look at Joe Lewis, and I think Joe Lewis is the best goalkeeper in Scotland. And it's unfortunate that he's ahead of me. So it's always going to be tough for me getting in there. But I just feel like if I can do what I've done at Falkirk this year for St Mirren in the Premiership, then I'll be right next to Joe, and I'll be knocking on the gaffer's door.
The good thing, about getting out on loan, as you say, you're playing, because, we spoke to Cammy Bell, a couple of weeks back, and the big frustration, I think, for goalkeepers is, I played outfield, so if I, was playing one position and I couldn't get in, I could actually go and change position. But as a goalkeeper, you're almost limited, so you must have a huge inner drive and motivation to sit on the bench, constantly, and that's long term. That's not the position you want to be, but it must give you an inner strength that you're just there, you're practicing through the week, and then when it comes to a Saturday, you're just waiting for the opportunity. How have you coped with that mentally?
Yeah, it was tough because I've never sat on the bench, but I was excited to go back to Aberdeen. It's such a big club, and the standard is so high that I feel like I went back there last year and I became a lot better goalkeeper, working with a better standard of players, some good coaching, and working alongside Joe. But it was hard, yeah. Start of it was okay, but then when you get to the turn of the year and stuff, and you still haven't played, you think a lot of goalkeepers out there don't mind sitting on the bench.
No,
you get goalkeepers. I don't understand it myself. You get goalkeepers who would spend 3, 4, 5 years just sitting on a bench, happy as Larry. But for me, I don't get any pleasure out of that. So I need to be going and playing games. But yeah, like I said, it was tough. But I think for the first 6 months, it was more developing myself with that standard of player, getting up to speed, and then after that I kind of was getting a little frustrated and stuff, especially when I got the sniff. I got a few games in January, February time, and I realised that was when I kind of realised, I can be number one here, so I don't want to sit on this bench for another year. I want to go out and get some game time.
And the thing is as well, that the League Cup's coming up, and you'll assume you'll go there. I mean, Craig Sampson's a goalkeeper, and I know well. I had him when I was chief executive at Kilmarnock and Dundee. He'll not give up his number one jersey lightly, but part of the the loan thing, is there any kind of things put in that that you will get the chance to start as number one?
No, football is a performance-based industry, so you have to go and you have to do it. I spoke with the gaffer Alan Stubbs this morning, and he just said to me, "Look, it's down to you." He said, "If you're good enough, you'll play.
Yep.
If Sammy's better than you, he'll play," which is exactly how it should be. I think if I go in there and don't do well, I can't expect to play. You know what I mean? You have to go in and do the business, and there's no guarantees in football. So. I know I was coming here. Sammy's a good goalkeeper, but if they wanted me, so I'm hoping that I'll get an opportunity, and I just need to grab it with both hands.
Goalies are obviously key parts of any team. I mean, they really are, and they're the ones that can hold their place more than anyone. I was just wondering, if you were to become first choice at St Mirren under Alan Stubbs, and you came up against Aberdeen, is there a clause there that says you can't play?
Yeah, that's a clause in the SFA rules, I think, that you can't play against your parent club. So that's 3 games I will miss this season. So I can't play against Aberdeen.
That's a bit of a stinker for a goalie, isn't it, really?
A little bit, but then again, I don't want to go against Aberdeen and save a penalty in the finish.
Well, all you need to do is look Derek McInnes in the eye and Tony Dock in the eye and just say, "I told you, didn't I? I told you." It's that simple.
that could go either way.
Tell me a little bit about St Mirren and you know why you decided they were the right club. Obviously, they're just coming up from the Championship. You would have seen a bit of them last season. Jack Ross was manager then. Alan Stubbs manager now. What was it that made you think St Mirren's a place that's the right place for me for this season?
Well, when I was at Falkirk, Alan Stubbs was the Hibs manager, and I always loved the way they played football. And I remember my agent telling me that Alan Stubbs was interested at one stage. And I feel like I've been at Falkirk where we had Lee Miller, so we just kind of would go along to Lee. But I feel like we're going to try and play out from the back this season, which is a big thing for me, because I would like to add that to my game. And I think it was just the chance to get to play in the Premiership, just to test myself. I know we're not going to win the league or anything like that, so there's going to be plenty of action for myself, and just kind of put myself in the spotlight again.
The big thing, sorry Bill, I was just going to say that the Premiership fixtures, you get the League Cup, there's an interesting section that you're in, but you start the season, then you've got Dundee at home, and then the following week you go to Ibrox. For a goalkeeper, that must be the kind of games that you want to play in. Saturday the 11th of August, Rangers v St Mirren. So that must give you a lot to good things to look forward to, but playing in that kind of atmosphere must do a huge amount for your game.
Yeah, I've always said it, even when it's television games or big crowds, I always feel like that's when I'm at my best. I feel like I thrive under pressure, and I love those games to play in. If you can't get up for games like that, you shouldn't be playing football. And yeah, Ibrox, Celtic Park, there's some massive games in there that you just got to go and enjoy them as much as you can, and hopefully you can do your best and show everyone what you have. And
I'm just looking at the fixtures. You would only have to wait to the 6th of October till you play Aberdeen, so that'll get you a wee run in the team if things are going well for you.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, I'm just looking to the near future first. I need to go in. I was in for my first day today. So I just need to go in there now, and it's a battle between me and Sammy. So it's all in hindsight if I'm going to play and play this year. You know what I mean? I need to go in there and do the business. I'm not going to take anything for granted. If I'm not performing, then I can't expect to be in the team.
I got to say, I've got a great admiration for your attitude. We were, as David said, we were talking to Cammy Bell, and we were saying, what's it like for a goalkeeper to go to a club knowing that he's going to be number 2, and then have to make decisions about whether he stays or he doesn't stay, or what happens to him. But I tell you, and I'm not being funny here, I really do admire your attitude, because after 7 years at Aberdeen, still saying I can be Aberdeen number 1, I think that's phenomenal determination. And the fact that you're prepared to go here, there and everywhere to prove yourself is even more, for me, that just reinforces that. Has it ever got hard at times, though, Danny, as a goalkeeper, doing that after these 7 years, thinking to yourself, I believe I'm good enough, I believe this is the right club for me, but the clock's ticking a wee bit. Have you ever had any kind of crisis of confidence in that direction?
Yeah, I would say my toughest decision was this year, whether to sign a new contract or not, and I mulled it over for a long, long time. And in fairness, Aberdeen just they kept coming back to me and putting pressure on me and reassuring me, and the terms kept changing with the loan and all sorts. So and it has been hard, yeah, because I feel like if you were to ask me 7 years ago would I be the Aberdeen goalkeeper by now, I would have said yeah. But things don't work out like that, and it boiled down to unfinished business for me. I felt like I could leave Aberdeen now and go somewhere else, and I would feel like it was a slight failure that I never reached my end goal. So I feel like I've got 2 years left, and that's my aim now. I'll go out on loan this year and hopefully go back next year a much better goalkeeper, more experienced, and give the gaffer a headache.
Well, you are only 24. I mean, so, you know, you got plenty of time, to be honest with you. But, you know, I just think it's phenomenal, the amount of determination and focus that you've shown over those 7 years, and that you still are showing that determination and focus. I've always said, and I've known quite a few of them, goalies are breed apart. And they certainly are, because they have a completely different mindset, and they kind of, you know, you're part of a team and you're there as the last line of defence, but you kind of, even at training in a way, operate in isolation a lot of the time, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's it. The goalkeepers, the goalkeeper union, that's what they call it. We kind of stick to ourselves during training, and I think if you want to be a goalkeeper, you need to have a screw loose. Everyone says that, and it's funny because it actually is true. I feel like goalkeepers are a bit mad in the head. They are a different breed. But yeah, we should keep ourselves to ourselves in the training, and then at the end we'll go into the small-sided games and we'll do the business in there. But yeah, you're right. It's a completely different mindset. It's almost a little more selfish. You know what I mean? Kind of, you're on your own at the back. No one's massively there to help you once the striker comes in. So you kind of just have to focus on yourself, and you're not worried about anyone else when the ball's travelling at you. So yeah, it is a different breed.
I remember speaking to a very famous international goalkeeper who will remain nameless, but was very famous and extremely good goalkeeper down south, and I had a conversation with him, and I said, what's it like being the last line of defence? And he said, don't you mean the first line of blame?
That's exactly it. I feel like that's adapting now. I think managers back then were ruthless for goalkeepers, because there was no goalkeeping coaches. There was no one to defend them. A goalkeeper coach will always defend his goalkeeper. So I think we have that bit of security now.
You know, it's great. I played with a few clubs that had two really good goalkeepers, and you could see them. But you know, if you're up against someone, and I know Sammy very well, he'll support you. If you're the guy, and you'll support him. So it is a breed apart, because whilst you're competing for one position, there is a kind of there's the allies, and they, that must be a great thing for you, for goalkeepers. Yeah,
that's it. It's like it's not the other person's fault that they're playing. It's not their decision. You know what I mean? It's all years are there for the one spot. Only one person can have it, and only one person makes the decision, which is the manager. So if you're not doing well enough for the manager, if your face doesn't fit the manager, then there's nothing the other person can do about it. So there's no point of getting in taking the hump with him. You know what I mean? You need to get on. You train with goalkeepers, and you probably train with 3 or 4 goalkeepers, the exact same lads every single day. And if you're not getting on and you're not good friends, then it's gonna affect the whole morale. So I feel like there's only one way to do it, and that's everyone gets on and you deal with it in your own way.
And you know football very well, and the fact is that football's a game that if you go and you get your opportunity and you grab it with both hands, sorry for saying that, but if you grab it with both hands, you then you get a huge amount of PR. People start saying, by the way, what a goalkeeper that Danny Rogers is, and that transforms the whole perception. So it is a great opportunity to go out and play, and as you say, particularly in the Premiership, where there's so much focus on it. And I personally think that was the right decision for you. So I really wish you all the very best with that, because certainly it's a great club. I know Tony Fitzpatrick very well, and it's good to go to a good club where you get treated well as well. And you must, even though you've been there one day, you must be quite impressed with the way St Mirren go about their business.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Tony Fitzpatrick. Actually, he was a driving force in getting the deal done. He was relentless. He was constantly on the phone to Stephen going up in Aberdeen and the SFA, trying to sort the rules out and everything. So it seems like a really well-run club, and I know a lot of the lads here as well. I know Tommy Smith, Jordan Kilpatrick, Miles Hippolyte, and they've nothing but praise for the club. So I'm delighted that I'm here.
Listen, good luck for the forthcoming season, Danny, and hopefully we'll talk to you at some point during that season just to see how you think things are going. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Yeah.
There we go. Danny Ross, who's just signed for St Mirren, goalkeeper. Been 7 years at Aberdeen and now is over in Paisley under Alan Stubbs. What were you smiling at?
You called him Danny Ross.
Did I? Oh, Danny Rogers, I beg your pardon. That's me. I'm away with the fairies again. Danny Rogers, I'm sorry. I've got it in front of me as well. Don't know why I called him Danny Ross. And Jack Ross, I was thinking about. I kind of melded the two, the former manager and the new goalie.
You're right, though, Bill, is like, his attitude is great, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant to get into something like that.
Listen, for a 24-year-old to be as savvy as that about his career, I think is absolutely amazing. Especially, as you say, he went to Aberdeen, obviously, as a 17-year-old, been there for 7 years. 17-year-olds are not known for their patience. No,
and the fact as well is that, he's obviously come to Scotland from Ireland. And that's a big transition to come, and leave your home and your parents and everything to come over to learn the game. But, it's just, in football, you just need a wee break at a time. And, if he goes out and performs in his first 3 or 4 games, people will be talking about him. And, if when he comes to the end of his time at St Mirren, St Mirren might even say, I tell you what, can we get him? So that would be good. I know Craig Sampson very well, and he'll not give up his position easily. Craig's a very focused guy as well, and a very, very good goalkeeper. So St Mirren have got 2 very good goalkeepers, and I see St Mirren doing relatively well this season.
Well, I was going to ask you that. We were going to come on to St Mirren because we were talking about them. Obviously, they've gone up. They've lost Jack Ross as their manager, but they've brought in a big hitter with Alan Stubbs. In terms of his experience within the game of football. What's your thoughts about St Mirren? I mean, is their aim really just like any club going into the Premiership consolidation? What do you think they can achieve?
Well, Tony Fitzpatrick, when he went there as chief executive, said we're a top 6 club, and a lot of people laughed at him and said, Tony, what you drinking? I'll have a pint of that. But that's what Tony's ambition is, and that's what the club. St Mirren's as a very, very good club, very good supporters, supporter base, and well run. The board, the chief executive, the manager, and the fans are all, aligned in the right way. I think they'll do very well, and I think that they'll challenge somebody like Hearts for their place in the top 6. I think St Mirren are really going to have a very, very good season. I just feel it that they've got things right. Alan Stubbs is a very good manager.
They've got to have good performances against clubs of an equal standing, I think, and that's your Motherwells. You've got Motherwell, St Johnstone, Dundee, for example. They would be the teams that they have to do better than and beat when it comes to those fixtures for me.
No, you're right, Bill, and I think the fact is that when you start looking at the league, the teams that are in it, Aberdeen, Celtic, Dundee, Hamilton. Hamilton, I think, will do relatively well as well. I think they've signed some good players, particularly at the back. Hearts, they've brought in a lot of players, but I don't know whether they will improve in last season. Hibs, I think, will do well. Kilmarnock had a great season last season, and I think they'll be there or thereabouts. Livingston, I think they may struggle. That's my own view, and I don't know if St Johnstone, do anything this season. But it's a very, very strong league. The key for any team coming into the Premiership from the Championship is to set their targets at 40 points. If you look to try and achieve 40 points, you'll comfortably be in 7th or 8th position. That's what you need to really look at. If you're actually lower than that, then it becomes a bit of a struggle. And the other thing is important in this league is to get a very good start. Now, St Mirren entertain, I think, Dundee in the first game of the season.
Which is one of those clubs they've got to match.
That's exactly it. That's the team. So if St Mirren get 3 points on the first game of the season, that sets them up quite nicely. They've got Rangers, obviously, at Ibrox the following week, which is going to be difficult, but it's important, as you say, that they beat teams like Dundee and then just take it from there. So, I think it's an interesting league, and we spoke about with Jerry Collins on Tuesday. We've probably got the most exciting 2 leagues the Premiership and the Championship that we've had for many a year. So I'm really looking forward to the season. I think the League Cup, I've always liked the League Cup, but this thing where with the trialists being able to play trialists, it really doesn't help the clubs down the bottom. So interesting, but I can't believe that the season starts on Saturday.
Well, I mean, we've spoken about Alan Stubbs being there now instead of Jack Ross. What's your thoughts on that appointment? Because you're a great one for it can be the right club at the right time or the wrong club at the wrong time. I'm assuming you're feeling that this is the right club at the right time for Alan Stubbs.
Absolutely, and and it works both ways. Tony Fitzpatrick wanted to bring in someone that was almost in the same demeanour as Jack Ross, and he's actually got almost a carbon copy of Jack Ross, and Alan Stubbs made the wrong decision, in my opinion, to leave Hibs when he did.
Go to Rotherham.
And go to Rotherham, because it was a chance to go down to England. But
they were a club in crisis at the time.
I think they were being sold. They were maybe the fourth or fifth bottom of the league. So it was only going one way. So that was a bad move for him. And I don't know whose advice he took, but certainly it was bad advice, because I think he could have maybe stayed at Hibs for a lot longer, because he'd obviously won them the cup and things were looking great for him. But he's bounced back, because the other thing is that I know managers that have gone to the wrong club and been out the game for a wee bit. It's hugely important then that they pick the right club is their next move, because a lot of them have picked the wrong club again, and they're all out of the game now, because you look at the amount of managers that are still out of the game, very very good managers, but they can't get a club. They just can't get a club.
Let me ask you how important it is for a club like St Mirren, though, David, where the buddies bring in someone like Alan Stubbs with his contacts north and south of the border, but south of the border particularly. How important is it for a team like St Mirren to have a manager that's got that contact book where he can bring players in on loan, where he knows there's good academy setups and he can look at young players that are coming through, that kind of thing?
No, I think it's great. It's basically it's like having a scout, because he'll have guys. I mean, remember he was at Everton for so many years, as a youth guy, so he will know. He knows English football inside out. But the other thing is what I think that is a great combination there is Tony Fitzpatrick being there. Tony, cool and relaxed about things, and you heard Danny Rogers saying there that Tony was instrumental in getting them there. So Tony knows the game, and Tony's is well respected. And remember, he's got a direct line to Sir Alex Ferguson, Tony Fitzpatrick. So I know Tony speaks to him on a regular basis. I know Sir Alex still has his tentacles around English football. So I'm sure if Tony needed any kind of players maybe to fit in, Sir Alex Ferguson would pull it for him. Absolutely, I've got no doubts about that.
I'm glad you got tentacles out, because I thought we were going to have a Willow Flood moment for a minute.
Thanks very much.
I'm glad that came good for us.
I was thinking of an octopus at the time, so I was visualising an octopus deliberately.
I thought, here we go, this is a Willow Flood moment in the making. I'm pleased to say it wasn't, but
poor old Willow Flood. I hope he gets back to Dunfermline.
I wouldn't take him back.
You wouldn't take him back? Because he left?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out.
That's just my opinion, but I wouldn't take him back if I was Sandy Clark and Alan Johnson.
It'll be interesting to find out whether he does go back, because he's obviously they've willingly ripped up his contract, and he's gone to Bali United.
Yeah, but what if he goes back again? He says, look, the same thing applies before the season starts, and I'm talking about before the league starts. Somebody comes in from abroad. I want to go. Well,
that's a bit. Willow could find himself out the game.
Willow could find himself out the game, but is that Dunfermline's fault or Willow Flood's fault?
It isn't, but I think he would add value to them. I actually thought that he'd be a good player for someone at Livingston as well, because I think just that experience and sitting in the midfield, and he's a motivator and things like that. Willow is. So I'm not going to get dragged into that. I'm just surprised.
I'm still surprised, as is Heggs, that Dundee United let him go.
I know, but Dundee United, there's obviously the story this week that
there's all
Stephen
sorts going on there.
Thompson's shares, they were having debate and try to get to a deal, and then it's collapsed. And then there was Americans who didn't tick the boxes in the right time. Dundee United, I think they've signed some very, very good players, but I just feel that they're in for another season of turmoil. If you look at the league, Dundee United, Dunfermline, Falkirk, Inverness for me is the team I think will do particularly well. And then you've got Morton, Partick Thistle, Ross County. So there's a lot of teams in there vying. Ayr United vying for the top spot. So when you look at those clubs, Alloa, Ayr, Dundee United, Dunfermline, Falkirk, Inverness, Morton, Partick Thistle, Queen of the South, Ross County. Could you pick a winner out of that? I don't think so. I honestly don't think so.
I think it's going to be the most competitive championship for the last 5 seasons. Yeah. I really do. I'm absolutely convinced.
Well, it'd be interesting to find out. I'm not a betting guy, but it'd be interesting to find out what the odds are. Who's the favourites to go to get promoted? I mean, to be honest, I really think Inverness will do that, because if you look at the run John Robertson had them on towards the tail end of last season, it was just incredible. Yeah,
but sometimes, Davey, and you know this better than me, sometimes that when that momentum's interrupted, when you're just getting into it, and you have to start from a standing start again,
you're absolutely right.
It can be horrific.
Yeah, I think Partick Thistle are going to struggle this season.
Yeah, you said that.
I think they released 15 players, and I don't think they've signed as many players as they'd hoped to at this stage, because it's important to get your players in early and get them acclimatised to the club. I know they've signed, can't put a number on it, but I think it's something like half a dozen. Someone will correct me, but I think they've signed, that kind of number. It's single figures.
Thistle are a good club, and they're talking about, they haven't slashed the budget. The budget stays at a Premiership budget. No. Is it purely the fact that you're going into the Championship rather than going into the Premiership that makes players think twice? Because it wouldn't make me think twice going into the Championship that's as competitive as ours is.
No, I think it's going to be difficult for them, because the big thing is they are the big fish, coming down. When you look at it, Dundee United have found it difficult, because what happens is every team that plays Dundee United, particularly when they're up at Dundee United, raise their game, because they're the big fish. That's the team you want to beat. So every team that plays against them raise their game. Partick Thistle are going to be the exact same. And I've looked at the signings, and I don't know if they've signed many leaders, because one of the things Alan Archibald said last season was the fact is that he didn't feel there was enough leaders on the park, and I don't know if he's done that. So maybe Willow Flood will end up at Partick Thistle, because that might be the.
Well, let me ask you: do you think it would be a good signing for Partick Thistle for Willow Flood to go there?
I think it would be. I think it'd be a very good signing for Partick Thistle to get him. So that might be conceivably the next signing, because Alan Archibald obviously wants to bring more players in, but I just think they're a wee bit light, and as I say, when they get into the Championship, then it's going to be a whole new ball game. So I just wonder exactly how their season's going to pan out.
Okay, do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to leave it till later?
It's up to you.
Well, we're going to be talking, obviously, to Bob Smith, who's through at Easter Road tonight for Hibs against Runavik and Rangers against Scoopy. We've got Lindsay Heron there. Let's talk about those games. European qualifiers in terms of the Europa League. Hibs back up now into the Premiership. Had a phenomenal season. At one point, they realistically could have been challenging to be runners-up to Celtic. Didn't quite happen. It fell away a wee bit towards the end. But they're playing up against a team from the Faroe Isles. Now, in olden days, or days of yore, call it whatever you want, we would have mocked them unrelentlessly, the Faroese. But we stopped doing that when we learned to our cost that it wasn't the right thing to do. What do you think about this match at Easter Road tonight?
Well, I think if I could pronounce her name, it'd be even better. But I just think that Hibs should go out. Big crowd at Easter Road. They should go out and hammer them and try and make as many goals as possible. Because if you look at the players that Hibs, Camberry for me is a top player. and they managed to get him under contract. So I think Hibs will win comprehensively tonight, and I think the Faroese, I think that they'll go in, and they're a wee bit the same kind of situation as Iceland. I think they're a team very, very difficult to break down, but and they'll sit in. But they've over their campaigns, they've basically they've lost every away game. The Faroese team, so it doesn't look good for them. But they had some credible results. They beat Linfield, a couple of years ago, and Fulham, I seem to recollect that they had a good result against them.
I don't know much about them. I don't know much about their previous history, to be honest with you. But
again, they were fourth, Bill, in the league.
It comes to this whole thing. Well, so were Hibs. Yeah. I know it's a different league.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I look at is, and you mentioned it earlier on about Dundee United, when teams were going there because they were seen as the big fish, they wanted to beat them. This team will come here thinking we want to do well. Whether they realistically think they can beat Hibs, but they'll not want to get a good tonkin, that's for sure.
No, but the big thing, the only thing that will swing it potentially, in their direction, a draw is probably a good result, or a 1-0 is a good result for them, is the fact that they've already played 15 games in their season.
Okay.
Now, 15 games under your belt going into a game against Hibs, that gives them a slight advantage.
Past pre-season, that's for sure.
That gives them a wee bit of edge, competitive edge, as we've always spoken about. So Hibs will have to be at their best. But I think if Hibs are strong enough and go to attack them from the start, I think Hibs can win significantly tonight.
All right, well, let's get the latest from Easter Road. Our man there is Bob Smith.
Yes, hello, good evening. Interesting to listen to you guys here. Pretty much on the ball what I'm going to say. And finishing fourth in the Scottish Premiership, it's given Hibs the opportunity of this tie against the Faroe Minnows. I hate saying that word minnows, but that's what they are, in part-timers. NSI Runavik, we better say their name. And the thing is, you can be sure that Neil Lennon, he'll be hammering into his team the recent poor performance of Scottish sides against the support no hopers. And if Hibs can produce the attacking flair that they showed in the last game here at the end of the season against Rangers, okay, they lost 5 goals, but they still scored 5. Surely victory tonight, it's a formality. Pre-season friendly, they disappointed them down tamely to Blackburn 2-0, and it's important, so Neil Lennon says, and all the fans, that they spring out the traps quickly and show a sharpness and an alertness. Recent signing Stevie Marlin on board, that is a big plus for them. We know there's a few players, but it's countered, I feel like, by the uncertainty of John McGinn, the excellent playmaker, poised to be joining Celtic. And I just was with the chief exec there of Hibs as she was speaking to the press on that, so that'll be in the papers tomorrow, the situation on it. So really, we have to say all the best to the Edinburgh side as they kick off their European campaign. The teams for Hibs, it's Bodkin, Whittaker, Hanlon, Slivica, Boyle, Mallon, Stevenson, Canberry, McGregor, Ambrose and Shaw. Their subs, Laidlaw, Gray, Bartley, Swanson, Murray, Martin and Porteous. And it's a big breath for NSI Runavik. It's Thompson, Johansson, Davidson, Benjaminson, Olsen, Frederiksberg, Torres Jogak, John Nixton, Knudsen, Hansen and Hansen, and their subs Gango, Langard, Mortensen, Henza, Benjamins, Olsen and Mortensen. Hopefully that sounded okay, and we better finish on a high. The referee, Manfredos Luke Janakukas, and he is the match official. This is Bob Smith for RockSport Radio at Easter Road. It's Hibs versus NSI Runavik.
Bob, just before you go, you were talking about the story about McGinn and Leanne Dempster clarifying things. Give us a wee update so that we don't have to wait till tomorrow to read about it.
Right, well, I just walked in as she was finishing. Now, you're talking every main person in the press. All credit to her, Bill, because she addressed them, she was honest, she was open. The disappointments, obviously, that's been a couple of bids from Celtic that's been turned down. But as tonight might give a good advantage to perhaps it happening if Hibs don't play particularly well and they have to come out and either accept maybe what they're doing, or from the point of view, maybe not, but we just need to wait and see, because the press boys here are writing it all up for tomorrow, so I'm not going to be saying anything that's
right. Go and nobble
a
couple of them and find out what's going on so we know at half time.
I'll see what we can do, no bother. So to be fair to them, they're writing it up just now, and you want to keep that relationship. Say a situation for tonight and into tomorrow.
Bob,
I'll see what I can do.
Bob, can I just confirm that McGinn doesn't play tonight?
McGinn is a player that they were talking about playing, but he is definitely not playing.
No, he's not playing. That's significant, I think.
Well, that's right, and they're obviously just making sure that there's not an injury, and I think that tells you a lot as well. But the big thing to excite the Hibs fans is Stephen Mallon playing, and a few new signings as well. But Mallon can make the impact, and as I say, we'll see what happens. Just in what you said, I have to just watch using that name now, since I've got every pair of eyes glued on me as we're talking here.
All right, Bob, thanks for that. We'll talk to you at half-time. Let's move to Ibrox now. Rangers against Scoopy, and your host for next week on Talking Football, and who was in the studio with me last night, our man there's Lindsay Heron.
Hi, good evening, Bill. Good evening, Davey. Yes, Ibrox Stadium, the beginning of the Steven Gerrard era tonight, of course, with this first-round qualifying tie in the Europa League against FC Scoopy from the Macedonian capital of Skopje. An incredible night, really. A 51,000 sellout here, Bill. Quite remarkable, really, for a game of this stature. But it just shows you exactly what the Rangers fans are thinking about this whole Gerrard situation. They're really buying into it, and they're also hoping for a winning start tonight with a few goals to spare. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Steven Gerrard has gone with the team that started against Bury last Friday night, which was a particularly strong lineup. And there are no places in the squad for the loan players Umar Sadiq and Lassana Koulibaly. I believe that the paperwork's still being completed on that from that point of view, so they're not involved. So Rangers go with Alan McGregor in goal, a back four of the captain James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, Nikola Katic and John Flanagan. Ross McCrory will sit just in front of them. Daniel Candeas on the right, Scott Arfield slightly to the left, and then Jamie Murphy, Josh Windass just behind Alfredo Morelos. On the bench for Rangers tonight, Anik, John, Ryan Jack and Ejaria, who the young lad who's on loan from Liverpool, makes the bench. Andy Halliday, Greg Docherty and Glenn Middleton. The referee tonight is Mr. Christian Dingbert of Germany. And Bill, Scoopy are along normal lines, so you don't really need me to tell you who they are, right?
I don't know. I heard there might be a few surprises. They've signed 5 players, I think. If you want to run through them, Lindsay, I wouldn't stop you.
Happily do it for you, Bill. In goal, we've got Zendeli, a back four of Tipuric, Bahrami, Lamchevsky and Dolaram. In the midfield area, Brocha, Indong, Injoski and Vucic, with Stoikowski and Adem up front for Scoopy.
Listen, let me tell you, my friend, if you're sitting in this chair next week, I'm making you suffer before you get here.
I know. I knew you would. I just thought I'd chance my arm.
Listen, sorry, go on, David.
I was just going to ask Lindsay, obviously Alan McGregor in goal, Anik on the bench. I've never seen anything but Fotheringham been injured. Is he just been left out?
They expect to move him on in the next few weeks.
I thought that, but I didn't know whether there was anything had moved on from that. Is there any news there from Ibrox about that situation, Lindsay, at all?
Well, you're right. That speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's no Fotheringham in the squad whatsoever. Steven Gerrard had mentioned last week that he can't have 3 goalkeepers. He only needs 2, really, with the backup youngsters that he has in the youth development squad. So the writing does look to be on the wall for Wes Fotheringham, and there's a little bit on rough on short. He's been a decent goalkeeper for Rangers, hasn't he, over the last couple of seasons, helped them get up, as you know. But looks as if he would have to find another club, David.
Yeah, well, he's very good in the ground, I think, and that'll be interesting, because how Rangers play, whether they play out from the goalkeeper. But no, he's been a good servant to Rangers, and I think they've had some good times with him. So that obviously is a move. We've heard from Easter Road there that John McGinn's been left out.
Apparently, it's a thigh injury, according to Neil Lennon.
Thigh injury.
We've heard all that before, haven't we?
How cynical. Listen, while I've got you on, Lindsay, let me ask you this: any news or any more kind of rumblings about the young boy from Millwall joining Rangers, because Millwall keeps shooting it out the sky like a clay pigeon every time it's discussed. But Rangers seem hell-bent, it would seem, on getting him at some cost.
Exactly. Well, I just spoke to somebody, fun enough, downstairs, and they are insistent that moves for Jake Cooper remain ongoing. I don't think they're going to give up on this one. Whether they can afford what Millwall will eventually want, I don't know, but he certainly seems to be a player that Steven Gerrard wants to bring in. He did say last week, Steven Gerrard, that he felt Nikola Katic was still a young player developing, so maybe he's looking for a bit more experience to help Katic along and also give them a bit more cover.
I mean, it's not as if Rangers haven't got a couple of players that could chip in with any money they want to give Millwall.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because there are still maybe some players that are surplus to requirements here, aren't there? So may not find themselves playing very regularly, especially with Sadiq and Koulibaly to come into the squad, as we know. So obviously Jordan Rossiter's not playing at the moment; he's injured, and Graham Dorrans is out at the moment as well. So you're looking at players like, I don't know, is Andy Halliday got a future here, do you think? I mean, he might be one that could be used as a make weight, I'm not sure.
Okay. Back with you at half-time. Thanks very much, Lindsay.
Cheers, Bill. Thanks a lot.
Lindsay Herron there at Ibrox for us. Where do you want to start, with Rangers against Scoopy, or do you want to go back to Hibs and discuss the John McGinn situation?
Well,
let's go back to Hibs. Let's do the Hibs John McGinn situation.
You know, all accounts was the fact that he was going to be playing tonight, and you know, obviously new bids possibly could come in, but you know, I've been at clubs in that situation where, you know, if you're close to a deal, the team that's buying them said, look, can you leave him out? Can you leave him out? So that's obviously what's happened. So I'm sure the John McGinn transfer to Celtic will go through probably tomorrow.
We obviously had the wrong passwords for Bob Smith. We didn't say things like the cow jumped over the moon and the speckled dog ran along the beach. You know,
well, I think
he was like a secret squirrel.
I know, but I think it was in front of a lot of journalists that wanted. But see, in this age of internet and Twitter,
Davey, I don't care. The scoop is everything, and if we get it and they don't, I'm happy.
Absolutely. So I'm sure you'll be having words.
Yes,
but no.
Goodbye, maybe one of them.
John McGinn's going to Celtic. Absolutely no doubts about it. Then, so I know that by all accounts they put a £2 million bid in. I thought at the start that remember we were speaking about it last week when you know, the Stuart Armstrong went down south. To Southampton, it was $7 million. You know, what is John? Is John McGinn half of that? Is you know, is he? So $3 million is probably the figure that the Hibs will be looking for. And interestingly, we spoke about it before we came on. Was that you know, well done to whoever was at St Mirren at the time.
Yeah, the 30% sell-on clause.
Sell-on. So you know,
maybe that's why Hibs are holding out for more money.
Well, that's it. And we keep bringing out the habitual thing about a club that ended up giving away 60% of a transfer fee. So,
yes.
You know, Hibs, you know, 30% given away. That'll be painful for them, particularly Rod Petrie, because he likes to keep his money within his club, you know. So if they're giving away 30%, that's a big.
And they couldn't
thing.
be dealing with anybody that's harder to deal with in terms of driving a hard bargain than Peter Lawwell. That's for sure.
No, I know. Peter Lawwell knows his it'll be interesting to be a fly in the wall between that conversation between Rod Petrie and Peter Lawwell. So it seems to be of whoever's won. It seems to be over the line. Just about, and you would expect that John McGinn would sign for Celtic tomorrow.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk more football.
Love music, live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David MacKinnon on RockSport Radio.
Okay, let's go back to Rangers. Scoopy, what's your thinking on this one?
Well, it should be. You know, given the momentum and given the crowd and given the fact that Rangers beat Bury last week 6-0, it should be a similar score, shouldn't it? Really should be
I don't know it'll be 6, but I fancy 4.
Well, I think it'll be 6, Bill. I think that once Rangers get the bit between their teeth and maybe score an early goal with that crowd behind them, I know from experience when you've got that crowd behind you, it takes you to another level. Particularly in Europe, you raise your game unbelievably, and I think Rangers, once they go out and if they score, an early goal or a couple of early goals, then it'll just be, taking the handbrake off and just going scoring as many as they can.
I know that he won't take anything for granted because he's not that kind of personality, but would you think Steven Gerrard licked his lips a wee bit when they got this draw?
Yes, absolutely. But I think the thing is, when you actually look at some of those teams that are in it, going forward, there's some unbelievable minnows in there, but there's the kind of teams that give you a huge amount of grief. I think Malmo might be in there.
The banana skin teams.
Yep. And so you'll be hoping for a relatively good draw in the next round, because I've got absolutely no doubts that Rangers will go through. When you actually compare that to last season, when they were put out very early on, that was a shambles, wasn't it? Absolute shambles last season.
Well, I watched both legs, and I have to say, I mean, the one thing I couldn't believe was the response after the defeat in Luxembourg of Kashinya. I mean, I just thought, does the man understand the magnitude of what's just happened?
No, it
was bizarre.
Was he arguing with supporters and things?
It was crazy, but and he had that painted on smile that he used to have all the time. And I just thought, this is if that had been Brendan Rodgers would have been spitting bullets.
I know, but listen, see, when you look at the people that the teams that are in the Euro qualifiers that Rangers, if they get through, and Rangers might meet, or Hibs might beat, but big games, AIK, Athens, Partizan Belgrade, looking at some of the teams there, Apollon Limassol, that's a difficult task to go. The Uzbek Doza, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Slovan Bratislava, Derry City. So
you just rattled off a name that I remember from my childhood that used to play regularly in the European tournaments that Rangers and Celtic used to get, and that was Uzbek Doza.
Yeah, remember that team. So you've got all these teams, decent teams in there. Copenhagen are in there, and Copenhagen are a very, very good side.
Wonderful.
They are, Maribor.
You missed that one, didn't you?
I know.
Wonderful.
I was thinking,
Copenhagen.
Oh, goodness sake. You've always holiday, basically waiting forward to that, aren't you? So
D-Mob happy.
D-Mob happy, that's what I was looking for. But, some big Slavia Sofia, Copenhagen. So there are some big teams in there.
David, do you remember those days where you would be playing teams like Slavia Sofia, Dukla Prague, and people like that, and basically they were army teams? Yep.
Remember?
Yep. Back in the old days, back in our day when we were kids and used to watch the European games. And they used to come up with a caption of the teams, and it would say Private so and so. And teams like Dukla Prague and the Slavia Sofia, they were all military teams.
That's it. But very good players.
Oh, excellent! I mean, remember Joe Massapust?
Yep, I do.
He was an excellent player, Massapust. He really was.
So lots of decent teams, and I think Rangers will have to gain momentum through their European games, and I think that obviously, a good win tonight and a good win away from home will really set them up, I think, to then go and tackle as the games get harder, because you've got no doubt if you've got a capacity crowd tonight and they see...
Well, you can't get a ticket for love nor money.
And you see, I know, someone try to get a ticket, but if you see, your team doing really well, and then you wait for the draw, the next one, and... you plan getting away and things like that. So I just think that Rangers in a relatively good place just now, and I think the momentum's going with the fans and the team, and another good victory tonight will just give them that wee edge to have a good season.
One of the things that I said I thought was a plus for Rangers last season was I thought the bench was stronger than it had been previously. It still wasn't a particularly strong bench on occasions, but it was stronger than it had been. Nowhere near as strong as the Celtic bench was, but you know what? Steven Gerrard, looking at the bench, has got a fairly strong bench now.
No, he has. He's got a lot of players that have gone there. Obviously signings last season that would have hoped to have maybe established their positions in the first team. Greg Dockery been one of them, but he's in the bench and he's not really featured. He's come on as sub. I think he came on as sub last week. So that's they're starting to get a really good bench, and as we said, that they've still got maybe some players to go. If you look at Alnwick, John, who played so well at left back, Middleton, Halliday, Dockery, Jack as well, so that they seem to have abundance of midfield players.
Yeah, they do.
Particularly on the bench.
But Steven Gerrard, obviously, being a midfielder like he was, thinks of that quite rightly as where the game's won, and that being the engine room. And I've always said that if you control the midfield, you control the game.
Yeah, and they've got these two players that obviously don't feature tonight. They've come and won. I think they'll be big players for Rangers.
Koulibaly and Sadiq.
Yep, Koulibaly, I think he'll be a really good player. I think I've looked at him, and he's got strength. It does remind me of Patrick Vieira a wee bit, just that kind of strength.
Well, Tom Miller said that Steven Gerrard refers to Koulibaly as the destroyer.
Well, that tells you all you need to know, and that's what I think he'll be. I think he'll be a strong guy, strong character in the midfield, and that's maybe what Rangers want, because it's
been a while since they had one.
Well, they signed a lot of players that are very good technically in midfield, but no one who could really grasp the nettle, I don't think, and actually stand up to crunch it. So if he's that kind of player, then it's going to be quite a season, isn't it?
It is indeed. So you're going for 6-0.
I'm going for 6-0.
What about Hibs? Give me a result for that.
I'm going for 5-0.
5-0 for Hibs. Okay, all
so
right.
There we go. So
right, let's talk about it, because it's not coming home unless home happens to be Zagreb or Paris. England going out of the World Cup last night. Jerry Collins probably still hasn't recovered from his celebrations. But, before I start, I have to say, and I tweeted this last night, I think Gareth Southgate has been absolutely magnificent, and especially in defeat last night. I loved the way he went round each of his players and had a word with them. I loved the way the ones that were sitting down in the grass, he got up and said, "Stand tall and be proud." And I loved him. I thought his interview afterwards, and it must have been a hell of a time for him. He must have been cut in two. But I thought he had a great deal of dignity. I thought he was very realistic. I genuinely felt sorry for Gareth Southgate. The team in general, I'm going to say something, and I've been winding friends of mine up south of the border all day who are in the radio industry and who I follow the team relentlessly. And I said to them on Facebook today, I don't know why you got all excited, because they played two teams that were worth anything and got beaten by both of them. Yeah.
Well, I think the inexperience showed last night, because they were in a position to win. I watched the game from start to finish, and, Harry Kane, I think Harry Kane's carrying an injury, because he just wasn't at his sharpest, particularly when he got that chance after the goal, the first goal, which was Trippier's free kick was just magnificent. But he got that chance. He could have maybe cut it back to Sterling, but he decided to take the goalkeeper on. But he didn't really get enough elevation.
Why would you cut it back to Sterling? He hasn't scored an international goal in 2 years.
Well, you're right, but
and he's had plenty of opportunity. That for me, I was just going to bring that up in our next bit of conversation. That for me is the only thing I'd have been critical of Gareth Southgate about, was actually starting and sticking with Southgate and sticking with Sterling in this competition.
Well, and the other one that I didn't think played particularly well was Rashford as well. He looked as if his mind was elsewhere at times.
I think the problem with Rashford is that he's come on and he's been playing in a position which is alien to him. He's been playing too deep.
Yep. I just think that there was a couple of wee things like that. I'm sure in reflection he thought we'd maybe have done better. I'm going to stick my neck out in the line and say I'm extremely disappointed that England didn't get a result last night, because for me, the World Cup's really over, because that was the interest, to see how England would do. Is it going to be a good final Sunday? I don't know. I think it'll be 2 1-sided.
See, that's one of the things that I enjoy, because I don't follow England much against the rest of my family's, abhorrence, being as my wife's English and both my girls are English. I don't follow them, and that's why the World Cup for me is still alive and kicking. And not only that, it's alive and kicking because I said straight before it started I had a sneaky for France.
Oh, well, you've always said that. I had a sneaky for Belgium, but that didn't materialise. But you're right. I think when he looks back, shown great dignity. And I think the other thing is that English media and English fans, basically got on the backs of the team, and you see the headlines, like turnips and all that kind of thing, done by Swedes and all these kind of things. That's not been happening. So I think he's restored a lot of pride in English football, and whilst there'll be a lot of people disappointed, I think in essence they probably got to further than what people thought. So I don't think there was that disappointment, but I don't think he will be criticised. I personally think that two of his players have said from the start, Walker and Stones, don't know how to defend, and these guys are obviously.
Well, Stones, I don't know whether it was Walker or whether it was Trippier that was in front of him, but for the second goal,
Walker.
For the second goal, they went to sleep.
No, because he can't defend, and Walker can't defend either. That's my view as an ex-defender. They cannot defend. The first goal where the guys came in, he was unaware where the player was because he was too square on. You should really, it's almost like touch tight. You know where this guy is. So when he comes across your body like that, you move across and you block him. Not, the way you do it is you get in there and you header it out the way, but you've blocked his run, so he's got no chance of getting the ball. And the second one was obviously, Walker bumped it up into the air, and then it was headed back in. But Stones, if you look at Stones, he was totally unaware of his defending.
He was. He hadn't a clue where he was.
And when you compare him, I don't know what he earns or what he's doing at Man City or what they paid for him, but if you compare him to a Terry Butcher, would Terry Butcher have lost that goal?
Well, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of John Terry on a number of fronts. But having said that, he was an incredibly good defender, and he would never have been caught out like that. Never.
He would never have been caught out with that. So that tells you a lot about those two players for me. I think when they look at it and they look at the whole thing, these two players can't defend, and that astounds me that players that have been transferred for so much money can't defend.
Here's the $1 million question: did Croatia win it or did England lose it?
England lost it. That's my view. Croatia, I think, stuck to a game plan and persevered and kept. And I think the other thing, which I thought, where England lost it was out wide. I'm not a great admirer of Young, and I think he tired very badly. And they had 5 in midfield across there, and they were actually containing them pretty well. But what happened was the two wide players seemed to collapse. And allow Croatia to go down the flanks, and that's where they started to lose it. And I think it was the case, when it came to getting into the final stages of the game when they were still 1-up. They should have shut it out for me. But they lost it.
Isn't that a dangerous game though nowadays, Davey? Because you used to think you could shut out teams when you were a goal up, but even now you can go 2 up. Yeah. And teams come back at you these days.
But good teams can shut teams out and then counter and get another goal. But I just think all credit to England, no credit to the manager, because I thought he did particularly well, and I think he conducted himself impeccably, and I think it's put a lot of pride back into English football. I hope we can then in the European Championships get back into this kind of thing, because it's captivated us for 3 weeks to 4 weeks, and it'd been sore not seeing Scottish supporters there, not seeing Scotland competing in these championships. And I'm getting a bit fed up with it, to tell you the truth, because I'm sick of picking another team or thinking, well, that team's great, because
whilst
you look at the players and you think they're good and there's good football.
How good are England though? bearing in mind I've just said that the two decent teams they played beat them.
No, I don't think they're as good as the pundits and the public thought they were. I think they've had an easy draw. I think they've got through. I think they've improved since the tournament started. I think there's been certain players. Maguire, I think he started very, very shakily, and I didn't think he was a player at all. But I saw a lot of him in the recent games, and I thought he's come on. And that he played particularly well last night. So I think the World Cup has been very good for him, and he's got something about him that I didn't see early on, because he was very, very nervous about his passing. But like you. I was shouting at television last night, howling at the moon, when they were playing those balls along the back four. I just can't believe. But Jerry Collins called it right. He said, these guys can't defend. Jerry Collins said that, and Paul Hegarty said that. Two wonderful defenders, said that these guys can't defend. They can play the ball out for the back, they can pass it, but there was once in the second half, I think the two of them, it was well into the game, there was a ball played through and somebody made a mistake, and the two of them were looking at each other. What do we do here? Who goes for it and who doesn't? And they nearly get a chance. So that's something they have to sort.
Here's something that I thought when finally common sense broke out amongst the pundits on TV and radio. There was Trevor Bookin made a very good point, because I had to listen to the first half going home in the car on 5 Live, and he made a great point, and he said the players in the England team have not won anything of note collectively in terms of individuals. No. They haven't won anything. You had players like Henderson who'd played in a Champions League final, but the medal count was actually very sparse, whereas a lot of the teams that were in there that were fancied had players who had won things previously. Yep.
And that counts because you know how to win games. That's it. Because if you're in that position, that's what I was saying to you. We were talking about seeing the game out. I meant the fact is that a lot of the players hadn't been in that position before, and that becomes difficult because you don't know what your expectations are, and you think, right, how can I see it out? What can I do? Should I be pushing it forward? Should I be doing this and doing that? But I think they lost it in midfield, didn't they? And then obviously these Modric in the second half just orchestrated everything. He just took control of everything. But here's something as well where it was a momentary breaking out of common sense for the pundits. They then started coming on about, this is just the beginning, we'll do better next time, we're going to be this, we're going to be that, we're going to be the next thing. I don't actually agree with that, and I'll tell you why. Germany, Argentina, Spain, Portugal, Italy will qualify. I don't think they'll never qualify again. But those other teams are never going to be as bad as they have been in this particular. So the level of competition they're going to be up against is going to be far better. Yep. And as I said, and I don't say it with any relish, the two teams that they played who were worth anything in the games that England did play, which were Croatia and Belgium, both beat them. Yep, I think the thing is as well, Bill, is the fact that these teams, as you say, will go back and work on why they didn't succeed, and England will never get a better chance to win the World Cup. They won't. This was their chance. This was the chance, and if they'd a wee bit more experience in the team to see it out, as I say, they may have got into the final, and then who knows, in the final anyone can win. But that was the best chance that England have had in a generation, and you're right, all these teams will come back, and I hope Scotland come back. I hope Scotland get in and get into these tournaments again. And it's not, when you see them, what would I say, 40th, 42nd, 42, I think they were 42nd, rankings. That's pretty poor, isn't it? It is when you consider at one point we were up in the top 15. I think. I know, but Wales, Northern Ireland, Era, they're all up there, the higher echelons, because they've had consistently improved their game. It's ironic, isn't it? The Premiership and the Championship, we're talking about how exciting it's going to be, how many really good players, but what are the expectations for the national side? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that when you actually look at it, do people now, because if you've not qualified for so long, there's almost an apathy sits in. And we'll never
I've
qualify.
got to be honest, I suffer from it. And it's not, I don't think we'll never qualify. It's just when you said a minute ago, I'm getting fed up with it, picking other teams and having no interest in it. I thought I should feel bad because
and you don't.
I don't actually feel that bad. And you're right. It's this thing where you've just got this acceptance now, where you're not going to be there. Blah de blah de blah. And don't get me wrong, I would be absolutely over the moon. I'd be beside myself.
We would maybe even do a show from whatever it is.
You just never know. You just never know, Davey, as part of a celebration.
Aye.
But I thought when you were saying that, I think I should feel worse than I do about us not being there, and I don't.
But that's what happens. Apathy is the worst thing that can ever creep into football, because I've seen it a couple of teams where there's been apathy in the stands. And it's almost like, listen, our expectations are no high. And I think that's where Scotland's got to. So they need a major jolt to turn the whole thing around. Because, when you actually think back, I'm sick of no qualifying, but I'm also sick of watching Scotland go to foreign lands and maybe be beaten by a team that I don't think that they're superior, and then thinking, listen, what we'll do is we'll get there, we'll make it. We need to win our last 3 games to qualify, so let's get behind the team.
But do you know what I find absolutely stunning? We have to win our last 3 games because we've lost our first 2.
I know. On
what ratio of common sense losing your first 2 makes you expect to win your last 3?
Well, I remember where I think this started for me. I always thought they were going to qualify at some stage, but I remember it must have been, I don't know what World Cup it was, but I remember Scotland went to play someone in the Balkans, and it was like 35 degrees, and I watched the game and Scotland were beaten, and I thought to myself, this is Scotland have actually turned the corner, but they've taken the wrong direction, because that was it. And I thought, Alec McLeish's got a big job to turn this around.
Well, let me ask you bluntly, from what you've seen so far from Alec McLeish's time back in charge again, do you think he can do it? Do you think he's going in the right direction? Do you think it's too early to tell? Were the fixtures that he inherited the wrong fixtures?
Well, I think he couldn't. He obviously had a restricted pool of players to play for him, and I think they gave him everything in it. But when you actually look in comparisons, the game against Peru, I thought Peru would have done better in the World Cup. They obviously beat Scotland, and I watched that game and I thought, yeah, well, that's a credible result for Scotland, because Peru are a decent team. They'll go far in the World Cup. And then when you saw them in the World Cup, they were absolutely terrible. And that really summed it up for me. And
then you start thinking, maybe we didn't do that well in that game.
I know. So who knows? It's was it September? I think there's some friendlies coming up or something like that.
Well, there's this new Nations League, isn't there? That's coming up. That's coming up later on in the year.
That's it. So
now, dare I chance the fact that in the new Nations League we have got Albania and I think Israel in with us.
Yep.
And so from that point of view, should we hope against hope that we can do reasonably well?
Well, what I was going to say to you is, do you think that will enthuse the Scottish supporters to get behind the team? And what happens is, Bill, if they don't get behind the team and they lose to these teams, then it all becomes rock bottom, doesn't it? So
here you are. It's only 11 years ago that we were ranked at our highest ever ranking in the FIFA rankings.
Yep.
What do you think it was?
Were we not in the top 10? We maybe 9th or something like
13th.
that? 13th. Well, that's credible, isn't it?
That's very credible.
Yep.
But since then, we've gone down 29 places.
Well, that tells you a
lot. In 11
isn't it?
years.
Aye. I mean, I hate to be...
That's 2 places a year.
I hate to be negative about Edinburgh. I really hate to be negative of Edinburgh. But, I think to myself... do I want to go and watch Scotland against Albania? No, probably not. Do you want to go and watch Scotland put 5 or 6 goals past somebody? I'd like to see it.
Well, maybe Albania and Israel are the teams that they can do it with.
Yeah. And, well, do you think maybe it could be a reverse to that?
You know, Davey, I'm like you've described. If I'm sitting in the stand or I'm sitting at home, my expectation level doesn't know where to be.
Well, that's it. You know, it's
at kick-off, I start, sky high. By half-time, I'm kind of starting to get to the doldrums. But by full-time, usually I'm ready to jump over, But
do you know the worst thing for me, Bill, is I've watched Scotland games on television, right, and been quite enthused with it. And at 20 minutes and 30 minutes into it, I say, what's on Netflix? Good Netflix. Because that's what and I'm a football guy. I want to see Scotland doing well, but it's sometimes watching paint dry, or even worse than that, like death by a thousand slashes. So I don't know. So it's great. It's a season ahead. Scotland, we've got the season starting for real on Saturday.
Hibs are up a goal.
Well, there we go. Close to that 5-0 that I predicted. Rangers 6-0.
You never know, Davey.
No, I just think that Hibs are good enough to get that. So who was it scored?
I haven't got that yet. Let's go back to England and think about this. And I'm not trying to be bring a downer to the campaign for them. It's bad enough they've gone out the semi-final stage. But if they weren't to beat Belgium in the 3rd and 4th place playoff, you would come home thinking, actually, it's not been that great a tournament.
No, I think it will.
Canberra penalty.
There we go. So that's a good start for him. So that must be about 2 minutes in the clock then. That's brilliant.
I'm trying to see what...
2 clocks.
Yeah.
2 minutes. But I think the thing is, like, 3rd and 4th place, it's almost like, something,
Yeah, but for me, it's not the position. It's the fact that you play one team who's decent twice and get beat, and another team that's decent once and get beat. You then look back at who you beat.
Do you think that
Iran, Panama, Costa Rica?
Right. Do you think that
Sweden?
Right. Do you think that game's not attractive to me on Saturday night, because they'll play the two teams that they played? Remember in the final group game where they just transformed the whole thing and Belgium won 1-0. That's it's not really a great incentive. So I don't know. And maybe I hate to listen to myself. I sound as if I'm the Grim Reaper. But,
soothsayer.
I don't know whether I've had enough of football before it's even started. It's just, I think if you're one of the, I don't know what's going to be Easter Road, 15,000 or something like that. If you're one of them, you're enthusiastic. If you're at Ibrox, one of the, was it 51,000? Big night in Europe. Rangers, trying to get a big score. That's the football. So maybe I need to get out and watch a game live, and I think that's probably what I've not done for such a. The last live game that I was at was I think it was a Hamilton game last season against maybe Celtic or something like that. So maybe that's what it is. I've watched too much football on the TV. I need to get out and get a bit of fresh air. Maybe you're the same. When you're going to meet Ronaldo next week in your holidays, is there any sort of games that he can maybe take you to?
I don't know, because he's not talking to me at the moment. No, because he's got one of these beach ball teams, and he fired me the text saying, "Can you play?" And I said, "I'm on holiday. Give me a break."
Aye. Well,
so he's not actually talking to me at the minute.
Well, I'm just wondering about the two years when the two years exit your hotel and walk onto the beach.
I told you, it'd be like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in Twins.
Well,
me and Cristiano.
I don't think he looks like Danny DeVito. That's the thing. I heard interestingly today, he's obviously signed for Juventus, and Juventus, funded by the family that own Fiat,
who are Ferrari.
And
Fiat are owned by Ferrari.
The workers at Fiat are going crazy because there's been lack of investment in the company, and they see the family's money going and diverted into Ronaldo's pocket. So seriously, they're talking about boycotts. They're talking about protests against the family because.
Do you know the interesting thing? The interesting thing is, you've just hit it on the head, right? And let's step through this. And Lewis can have a wee chuckle, because he says he chuckles at these wee things when I go into my analytic mode here. You've just said there's boycotts because of the way the family have spent the money. If your next door neighbour chapped on your door and said to you, I don't like the way you're spending your money, what would you say to them? It's the family's money.
Aye.
There's a clue there in the word family.
But
somebody told my family how to spend their money, I'd hang one on them.
Well, but I think by all accounts that they've not been spending it in their workers.
That's their prerogative.
Well, we've got different values in that, I think, maybe, or different ideas about it.
Listen, are their workers out of work? Are they laying people off? Have they stopped building Fiats?
Listen, by the way, you're a bit Bolshevik, aren't you? Just because you're demop happy and you're going...
No.
You're going...
I find it incredible when these stories break. You know, it's a family's money. Who says... You know, the other thing is as well, there is a difference between the family's corporate fortune and their private fortune.
Well, there's the exact replica. Dave King, his family's money. And I understand there was some wrenching of teeth when he decided and said that he was going to invest into Rangers from his family and from his business associates. So, you know, it works both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, but there is a difference between someone's corporate, fortune and their family fortune.
Yeah.
And I don't see anybody being able to divert funds from Fiat or Ferrari or anywhere else corporately and getting away with it rather than doing it through their own family fund.
We're actually leading ourselves quite well into the programme that follows us, because it's all about cars. So that's very clever of you bringing that in.
You brought it in, not me.
That's very clever.
But no, you see my point.
I do see your point. That
how much money do Emirates put into sport on an annual basis as an airline? Colossal amounts of money. You know, there are other companies, banks, beer companies, people like that who put colossal amounts of money in.
Yep.
You know, okay, some of it may be more than you would invest in a Ronaldo, some of it may be a lot less, but the workers, as long as it doesn't impact on them directly, they could turn around and say, oh, we've not had a pay rise for 10 years, but that 10 years, they never sat for 10 years thinking, let's save up to buy Ronaldo.
No, they didn't, and maybe that's the thing for us, Bill, at RockSport. Maybe we should sign a big player. That'd be important, wouldn't it?
I'm here.
I know. Aye, but
what can I tell you?
But you're off next week, and that's a bit. Listen,
you've got to keep throwing that back at me, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
I'm entitled to be off next week. You've run me ragged.
You deserve every minute of your vacation, and we'll miss you.
The sands apparently have mineral healing properties.
Oh, fantastic.
So the wife says she's going to bury me alive so that I'm very healthy.
Well, just your head sticking above. So
actually, if she gets to the point where it's just my head sticking above the sand, I'm not sure I can trust her to stop.
We'll miss you. And the thing is, are you going to listen online just to check that we're...
No, I never do that.
Well, that's great. So
I never do that.
So the good thing is we can talk about you next
Lindsay Heron said to me last night, can you give me some hints and tips? And I said, yeah, the hint and tip is do it the way you want to do it, not the way I do it.
No, I know.
And just be yourself and just do what you want to do.
And the big thing is as well, like, it's been great having Talking Football on through the summer, because I know a lot of stations, when they've got football shows, they just switch off and just think, well, there's no football, let's not have it. And we've great.
Well, I wanted to, but you moaned that much that I thought I could go with it.
Some of the conversations we've had have been incredible.
Listen, David, I don't know how you can possibly, and I mean this, shut down your football show during the World Cup.
No, you can't. And I think the other thing is Bill, is the fact is that the benefit of next week, there's lots of games on, and we're back into it. We're back into it,
and of course the talking points become more and more then, because the decisions that are made affect the fans that listen to our show.
I was just going to say, and the good thing is Jerry Collins has decided to come back next Tuesday.
I'll tell you a thing. Somebody actually tweeted today. Loved listening to Jerry last night. I thought he was fantastic.
Brilliant.
Will he be back? And I tweeted, Jerry will be a regular member of the team for the new season.
Good. Well, that's a coup for us. That's our big signing, because some of the things that Jerry was talking about was brilliant. But I think the other thing is it gives you another perspective. An ex-manager, an ex-player, a guy who's works behind the scenes with the SFA in various roles and commodities. Like an agent,
and still very well connected at top clubs.
Yep, very much so. And a guy that says it is. And I think that it was interesting. Jerry doesn't sit in the fence in anything, as we know. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of it. And Jerry will add great value for us, and it gives us another dimension. So I think we're getting the team, but I just wonder whether he could be able to be sub for our walking football team, because he's not getting in as far as I'm concerned.
I've never heard anything about it still, so I don't know what's going on with it.
Hamish has contacted the relevant authorities, and it's going to happen.
Right, okay. One thing I was going to say about Jerry, and it was amazing because when I saw him yesterday, or Tuesday when he came in, that was the first time I'd seen him since we were at Alan Ruff's house for Ruffy's 50th birthday. And
I bet his age.
And I hadn't seen his age a lot better than me.
No, his age better than Ruffy, is he not?
Well, I don't know, because I think Ruffy's aged quite well, I have to be honest.
So?
I'm sorry to say it, but I think he has. But that's the first time I've seen Jerry since Ruffy's 50th birthday.
And I bet it was just like stepping out of the room and coming back in.
It was bizarre.
Aye.
It was very bizarre. The first time that we've been in the same room.
Well, the big thing is he said for me, the positive he said for me was that when the show finished, was he said, you were right, it's just like talking in the pub. 2 guys talking in the pub, 3 guys talking in the pub about football, a game we love. And it just that's a good thing.
Davey, I say this all the time, and I mean it. It's not meant to be glib. It's not meant to be flippant. It's not meant to be patronising. Because we have our opinions and we have the luxury of being able to put them over on the radio, doesn't make us right and everybody else wrong.
You're absolutely right.
And so from that point of view, as long as we keep accepting that and do what we do in the way that we're doing it, and stay balanced, talk about all teams with equal fervour, then I'm happy that we're doing what we're here to do.
Good. Well, you know your holiday, and remember, and take a wee shovel when you get buried. Right.
It's true, they reckon they've got healing sands. Do you the world of good with your joints and things. They reckon that the sands have got mineral properties which have healing powers.
Well, I've still to book my holidays, so I'll maybe... You can give us a recommendation. It's almost like Bill Young's TripAdvisor.
TripAdvisor. That'd be great, wouldn't it? I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also apprehensive about it because there is absolutely nothing there. I mean, this is a tiny wee island, 5,000 inhabitants.
Yes, but one of them is Ronaldo.
One town. Well, no, he's not. He goes there. He goes there. He's building a big posh hotel, a big swanky hotel there.
Good.
But he goes there and has done since he was a young man.
Fantastic.
So I said to him, look, I can't even make the football. The wife would go berserk if I start playing football when I'm over there.
The two of you maybe get a swim together.
So he just said, all right, fatty, and left it at that. That's it. I'll be back tomorrow with Hugh Burns and Gordon Young. Paul Hegarty on the night off tomorrow. Next up, pole position with Andy and Adam.
Love music, live sport. Talking football with Bill Young and David MacKinnon on RockSport Radio.